Ladies and gentlemen, it is another Tuesday night in the year of our Lord 2025, and that means that we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, www.welikespортspc.com proudly presents to you their podcast tag team champions of the world. The clinking Mike Valentine, babyface Gabriel to my right, and we are the 6, 4, 3 and out guys, and you're listening to the Sportz Truth. Gabriel, buddy, how are you doing?
Hello, Michael. You know what? I told you this via the beautiful social media app X. I'm glad that we have a Denver guy on today because there's a lot going on in Denver sports, so this should be a
There
good
is
one.
a lot. We timed that pretty good. You know, I'm not gonna say who did that, who decided to pull this guy on, but you know, I think it's gonna work out pretty well for us. That we timed it pretty good, right?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so we're going to do that first segment, as Gabriel already mentioned, with a guest that we'll be pulling up here in just a second, and then we'll be doing some additional things after that. But you know, we always try to have the guests feel at home, and we let them come on first, right, buddy?
As a good host should.
Has a good well, I don't know about good host or anything, but we'll work on it as we go. But you know what else we're going to work on, Gabriel? We
What?
gotta give everybody the walk-up music.
Are you ready? 20 seconds start now. Ten seconds remaining. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time's up.
A little less seams in there. I'm not going to call it seamless, but we'll say a little less seams than it has been a few times before, right? All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to crank this one right along here as our numbers are already climbing and are already in double digits before we even get to our first segment. We appreciate each and every one of you doing that. You can click on the comment section top right-hand corner, I believe is where that is on your screen. Somebody already has. We'll get to that momentarily. But next, we are going to talk about everything Colorado sports. We're going to talk about the Rockies and their new kids. We're going to talk about Chris Bryant when it comes to the Rockies. We're going to talk about the Nuggets. They, unlike the Phoenix Suns, made the actual playoffs, and they are ready to go to the top. But can they do it? We'll find out. And we're going to the Denver Broncos draft. Days from today, we will talk about Denver, who we think they're going to pick, and why they're going to pick that person. We're going to do all of this with Fanatic Dak. We'll talk to him here in just a moment. We're going to do some rapid fire at the end of our Denver segment. We're just going to rattle off a bunch of questions, and we're going to put the pressure on Dak. He's going to have to answer everything, and if he doesn't answer it correctly, I don't know. We'll just ban him for life, I guess. I don't know what we'll do. We haven't decided a bunch. We're going to do all of that. We're also going to talk about the Colorado Buffalo. We're going to talk about Tyrone Lacey, the Yankees, the captain of Team USA, and Mike Trout. All right. Halt that music right there. We've already got comments coming. Holy snot. Here we go. That is correct. We are live. That's right. You only get that once per show. So we'll look at that here. What else we got coming up here? The intro music's too loud. Well, I appreciate you telling me, and then wait until after the intro music was over. But that was okay. I didn't look at it fast enough, buddy. We'll get with all that here in a moment, and I will turn all that down as well. So I appreciate that. We can go through and make those changes. Oh. So, Roger Strauss, he is one half of Red Hot Reds podcast. He's on with us live, and he just let me know Corbin Carroll must have hit a grand slam. Excellent. I hope that means they're winning. So, we'll get to all that here momentarily. All right. But before we do, what we have to do, and Harrison, you're going to be my guy here because I know you're listening. I will watch the comments here because I'm going to bring on our special guest, and I'm going to do that with a little bit of music as well. So you tell me if it's too loud, too whatever here, buddy. Because it sounds fine in these headphones I got on this head. Maybe it's because my head's so big and there's so much echoing going on in there. I don't know. But before we go any further, let's make sure that we do it right. And we bring him on right. Ladies and gentlemen, from www.WeLikeSportsPC, he writes for the Denver sports scene. That means he does Broncos. He does Rockies. He does Avalanche. He does Nuggets. And he even does Colorado Buffaloes. Here he is, Fanatic Dak. There he is.
How's it going?
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Good evening. I'm doing good. I can't complain today.
There we go. Hey, send the street. Updated, Rod. We appreciate it, buddy. Okay. We didn't get back to the screen fast enough to turn the music back off. So you know what? We'll just 21 seconds worth of music. We'll just let it play one more time.
I love it. It kind of reminds me of the Sandlot in a way. Some of this music. I don't know. Has that Sandlot vibe? I don't know if you've seen that movie.
All right. Now we'll stop it. Look at that. Okay. So, got another one. We're just getting comments all over the place here. Oh, look, we were talking about this guy before the show. Ricky Logan, right, Dak? He's with us as well. Big time.
Yeah, what's
Dak.
up, Ricky?
I like it.
Good man. Good man.
All right. So we'll bring everybody up here and we'll bring everybody up to speed. Once again, my name is Mike Valentine. I'm the host of the show. You're listening to the Sportz Truth. To the upper right here, that's Gabriel, co-host, at least for the time being. Oh, you know what? That was great. Can you do that the entire time? With that cup, can you put that up there by your face? Yeah, so it covers up that baby face of yours. There we go. Oh, that's beautiful right there. You just need to have like a picture of me on the bottom of your cup, so that when you pull it up there, that's what it is. No, we don't want to scare people. That's okay. All right, and then of course down here at the bottom, our special guest today is Fanatic Dak. Fanatic Dak, tell us a little bit about a day in the life of Dak. When you get up in the morning, what are you doing all day, buddy?
Oh, well, in the morning, I usually I'm up early with my rugrat. He keeps me busy before he goes to preschool and before I head to my day job, you know. So I start typically what I do throughout the day. I'm a personal support worker. I take care of children with disabilities. So I do that, but throughout the day, I happen to post on X, you know, and interact with a lot of fans that are Broncos fans, Nugget fans, football fans, basketball fans, you name it. That's my typical day, and I just like to have fun. I'm very outgoing. I do have a busy schedule, let me tell you, but I like to do podcasts, kind of let my hair down and talk ball with the boys, you know.
Right. Well, I'm not sure about the whole letting your hair down thing. You don't have a. You might be the only person that has a little. Well, no, you don't have less. We can't go that far. You got more hair. I'm not sure how much of it you can let down here, buddy. All right, so we are going to start the show. Myself, Gabriel, and Dak. We're going to talk about mile-high highs and lows. So we're going to do the Rockies first. Then we're going to move into. We're going to move into the Nuggets. Then we're going to go into the Broncos, and then actually we're going to go back to the Rockies. Because Gabriel and I are big baseball guys. I even got it. Wait, I gotta do. Look at this. I even put the shirt on for you today, buddy. So,
Yeah.
You're representing with the flag in the background. I got the shirt on, and Gabriel don't have squat. So great job, Gabriel. He didn't get the memo today. Right? Okay, so let's jump into
Yeah.
our first question, guys. I'll pretty much ask the questions, and I'll let Gabriel and Dak kind of bounce everything off each other, and we'll go from there. All right. So the
Awesome.
Rockies have placed outfielder Chris Bryant on the 10-day IL for lumbar degenerative disc disease. Well, that does not sound good whatsoever. Bryant has never played more than any games in any of the 4 seasons that he has been with the Colorado Rockies. His batting line for the 2023 through 2025 seasons, here's his slash line. It's not great. 222, 307, 335. Sounds like Rafael Devers for the first couple weeks of the season, right, Gabriel? I'm sorry. Did I rip that Band-Aid off too quick? I
Just
apologize.
why? Just why?
All right, so now this season's even worse, right? Chris Bryant's batting 154, 195, 205. So the question, we're going to start off with Dak here, buddy. What should the Rockies do with Chris Bryant?
It's definitely a tough situation for him, being that he's been during his tenure as a Rockies suffering and dealing with injuries. The latest one, the degenerative disc disease, something that I have that I manage it myself. To be honest, it's definitely not an easy injury to deal with. You know, you have your highs and your lows throughout the day, or in general every other day, or it just depends. You know, and it kind of makes sense as to why he's struggling in terms of batting production. You know, because you need your bat to swing the bat. You know, but other than that, I think when you asked me if what the Rockies should do with Chris Bryant, I think we need to move forward and push through with the youth movement, because this Rockies team doesn't really seem like they have like a direction. If we're being honest, they haven't really had one since they moved off with Nolan Arenado. So I think it's time to move off of Chris Bryant. You know, we appreciate it. It's just one of those things that don't get me wrong, and I was excited when we signed him, but I just think it's one of those things where it's time to move on and get some young talent in here, you know, and get there. It's time for them to shine.
All right, Gabriel. So if you are the general manager of the Colorado Rockies and you've got this Chris Bryant problem on your hands, how are you going to solve it? What are you going to do with Chris Bryant?
Yeah, it's a really great case of when it rains, it pours, I would say, for the Colorado Rockies, unfortunately. Hey, Dak, how are you doing? So in terms of what do you do about this? Yeah, I think you ultimately do just have to move on. You know, what's the odds of him being able to turn it around health wise, where you can then say yes, we can rely on him? I just don't see that happening, unfortunately. Um, was at the time where was Dak excited? Was he like, yes, we got him? Yeah, but that time's passed. So I just organizationally, if this isn't a sign, I don't know what is.
For sure, I agree with you, man. Rip off the band-aid, you know.
Right, kind of like I did with this Rafael Devers thing over here. You know, every once in a while, you just got to rip that thing off, man. Just let it bleed, right? Just let it bleed and heal itself up. So, but let's talk about when they first. You know, we're going to go off our notes a little bit here for a second, and Dak, let's talk about when you first signed Chris Bryant. I won't go off notes too bad here. I'll just go down B here for a second, right? So with the Cubs, he was Rookie of the Year. He was MVP. He was an All-Star. He was a World Series champion. He was a world champion, right? And then he went to Colorado, and everything just went to right. So
Yeah, but
what's your take on what happened once he got to Colorado? What's the difference from Chicago to Colorado, Dak?
I think to be honest though, he dealt with injuries, of course, still in Chicago. You know, it's not like this is his first hurrah in Colorado, and all of a sudden he's dealing with injuries. You know what I mean?
Right.
He's had that label of being injury prone throughout his career. You know, when he got traded to the Giants, I mean, he was healthy at the time. You know, he made his mark. And ultimately, it gave the Rockies confidence, you know, in terms of his production with the Giants, to go ahead and sign him to that big contract that he signed. I can't remember right off the top of my head the exact contract details or whatever. But I know it wasn't a cheap contract by any means, and I was actually pretty happy because I mean it was like for me as a fan, it gave me hope. After we traded Nolan Arenado as a Rockies fan, which was a sore spot for me as well. I was a big time Arenado fan myself, so.
Yeah, so you were asking about some of the particulars here. We don't have a producer here. I'm the everything, so I'm clicking buttons, and I got Baseball Reference pulled up over here on the right. You keep seeing me kind of look over that way, and you're like, man, he ain't even paying attention to poor Dak when he's talking. I hear you, buddy. I just got everything everywhere here. So, Ricky is on here saying it sucks. They're one big free agent signing, and he can't play. A really talented player, but marred by injury. That's 100% right. So. Then he tries to correct himself, and he says, now he's just being honest. He can't spell tonight. That's Ricky. That's why I edit your stuff for you, buddy, because you can't spell any night. But that's okay. Nah, you're good. So now, of course, Gabriel's buddy's got to come on here. The Rockies are irrelevant to sports. How, man?
They're bottom feeders. I mean, he's not wrong. They're not wrong.
Good luck tonight, though. Good. I wish you a lot of luck tonight, though.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So who are they playing right now, Gabriel? They must be playing somebody in your division, I take it.
I want to say tonight was the Dodgers.
Oh, it sure is, bud.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, we don't like the Dodgers around here.
You know what? I'm rooting though. I want you to take one off them, so I'm rooting for you, Dak.
Man, it's crazy because usually I'm sorry to jump off topic or whatever, but because I know you guys have your agenda here. But the Padres usually they do solid, for the most part against the Padres when we face them. It wasn't that at all. That wasn't the case. I mean, we ended up 3 games in a row scoring no runs. I think that was a record. The Rockies kind of remind me of the Bad News Bears, but there's no at this point in time. There's just no trajectory of improvement at this time. Unfortunately.
Right. So got a couple other comments here that we will. Wow, we're just opening up all kinds of wounds here. I mean, you may as well just grab a hold of something, hold on to it tight, put it right up against your shoulder, and just. So they're just opening up all kinds of wounds here today, man. Boy, we're just this is awful. So they traded their franchise player and gave the team money. He's referring to Nolan Arenado, I assume, right? They traded him and they sent money, and then of course signing Bryant was plain stupid and made little sense. And they're playing the Dodgers, so basically he's saying have fun with that because the Dodgers are a pretty good run organization, even if I can't stand it. So when we talked about what the Rockies are going to actually do with Bryant, I wanted to pull up the Baseball Reference here, and I've got it over here on my right. So you said earlier that you weren't sure 100% what that contract was. I am. 8 years, $180 million was that contract they signed him to. So they have the rest of this year, and they've got 3 more years at $27 million apiece. Yeah. So big money in order to get rid of him. It's so big money in order to get rid of him. Okay, so I'm laughing over here because I can see the comments and you guys can't. So there's people that I work with talking smack right now, and when I get to work tomorrow, I'll be talking some smack too. Anyway, so
nice.
Still love you, Harrison.
Give it back.
Yeah, cut him or trade him for peanuts. That's are you willing to do that? I mean, even if you don't get much for him.
I mean, if you get him to a team that's willing to take on some part of the contract, I mean, why not? You know what I mean? And if you manage to get some prospects in the trade, that could potentially be something. It's better than cutting your losses in reality and not getting anything for it, right?
That's right. Now, we're also going to talk here in just a little bit when we come back to the Rockies after we do a part on the Nuggets, and we're going to do a part on the Broncos as well. Then we're going to come back to them, and we're going to talk. Oh, boy, we are all on point tonight. And then we're going to talk about some of these kids. Now, Dak, I want to ask you this before we get to that. What if, in order to get rid of Chris Bryant and his contract, I've got to give you some good young talent on the Rockies team. Are you willing to do that just to get rid of Chris Bryant in that contract?
Of course, like I said, we don't really have a. It just seems like the Rockies haven't really had a direction that they're really looking to go to, right? Like there's not really. They've. It seems like we're just in a constant like circle, you know. They'll trade good players away. They'll try to develop, and then as they develop, they trade them again. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like a musical chair kind of thing. But then unfortunately, it's not ending. But if it means getting some good young talent, I'd be more than up for it. Then we need something, you know, in our on our team for the fans to even get excited about, you know, at that.
Right, right. So the last thing I want to hit on here is his injury history. We talked about it a little bit in a couple of the pieces that we've done. So he's had a heel bruise, he's had a finger fracture, rib contusion, and multiple back problems. And right now he's got the lumbar degenerative disc disease. I'll get with Dak here in a moment because I did hear that Dak said, "Hey, I've got something at least similar to that or whatever." We'll talk to him about it. Gabriel, though, I want to include you in on this conversation a little bit here, and I want to ask: when you have a player that's had the injury history that Chris Bryant does, what kind of red flags does that send to you if you're trying to trade for him?
It kind of goes to what your secondary question was, Michael, in terms of, well, yeah, we all kind of are in agreement. You want to get rid of him, but what are you willing to basically also give away in order to get rid of him? Because the incoming team, they see everything else that we're seeing, and they're saying, okay, we'll take on the risk, but we need a little something in order to have this be an acceptable risk. So yeah, it's a huge red flag. I'll just say this, and this isn't a glowing remark. A team like the Dodgers, it needs to be something like that where they have so much talent where they can afford to lose Chris Bryant for X amount of games. Again, not a compliment at all. And again, once again, I'd like to reiterate: come on, Rockies, take one tonight.
So
Yeah.
almost on a team where they can hide it, right? They have a team that has
Yeah.
so much talent they can almost hide somebody like Chris Bryant. I get it. So, Dak, I know you're a big Denver guy, big Denver fan. Do you still live in Denver, or where are you at right now?
I live in Oregon right now at this time. Yes.
Okay. So, how long did you live in Denver, or have you ever lived in Denver? I'm setting this up, and Ricky, I'm setting it up for you, buddy. You'll see it in a minute.
Okay, awesome. I've lived in Denver. I was probably like 3 years old until I was adopted. Moved out of Denver, of course. But I have family in Denver that I keep in touch with, and I visit Denver pretty frequently. You know, I'm actually going there next week.
Okay, so then here I'm going to bring up his comment, and I never thought about this, Ricky. I'm going to give you some credit here, buddy. This is a good thing. You're gonna let me gravitate to this a little bit. He says, "I'm no doctor, but could altitude have an effect on the injuries?" So, Dak, you're going to go back to Colorado. Is your back problem going to get worse when you go to that higher altitude in Colorado, or is it about the same, bud?
I would say it's about the same for me, to be honest. Like,
Okay.
you know, because I have visited with the same condition, you know, and it's not, it hasn't like made it to where it increases or decreases, you know what I mean, in terms of my pain tolerance or whatever stuff
All right.
pertaining to the injury.
And the reason why I was kind of asking that is I have a friend who comes out here to Arizona from Ohio. I live in Arizona. He unfortunately lives in Ohio where it snows and all that kind of stuff, right? So he comes out here with my family, and then when he does, like, he feels much better, and he has the degenerative disc disease as well. So Dak, it's interesting actually. Dak, you've got that. That's not a curable thing, right, buddy?
From what I've been told, no, it's not. It's you have to. It's like you have to manage it with like I've been to physical therapy. I had to lose a bunch of weight to actually lessen the load off your spine, you know, because your spine's only, you know, it's tiny, you know. So it's made a difference, you know. So I've I've done some kind of what's the word I'm looking for? I'm drawing a blank right now, but it's like I've managed the pain and to where, like I said, still have my bad days, but it's not like nowhere like it used to be when I was heavier. And
All
I've
right.
started working out and doing things like that to strengthen um like my core, and my back too. So
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure turning the hat around backwards helps, right?
yes.
Yes, yes. Unlike the Spurs guy up there in the top right, who we didn't get the Nebraska today. We got the Spurs today, so he didn't get the memo about wearing Denver stuff for the special guest. So that's okay,
Shame on you, bro.
right?
I know you'll make
Right.
it up to us.
We'll have to make him do that. Maybe we just won't let him talk. Maybe the two of us will just talk the entire time and just let Gabriel sit over there with his crazy looking hat on. So,
He'll be the third wheel of this one.
right, that's fine. That's
I'm just
fine.
kidding. I'm just kidding, bro.
All right. So the last question for you, Dak, here on the Chris Bryant thing, and then we're going to move on and we're going to go to the Denver Nuggets next. And that is this: do you think Chris Bryant is going to be able to manage the pain from the degenerative back disease that he's got right now, and is he going to be able to be a productive player anytime soon in a Colorado Rockies uniform?
To be honest, I would say no. I mean, it's like I said, you're gonna have. It's like there's a lot of if and there's like a lot of uncertainty with that injury. Like I said, you're gonna have the good days and you're gonna have the bad days. The pain comes and goes. For me, anyway, in particular, I would like to say maybe the same would be for him. I don't see him. I mean, unless it's hard to say, to be honest, with an injury like that. If I'm being honest, like I really can't say.
Gabriel, you have any kind of relatives or anything like that, or possibly yourself that's got any kind of affliction that you can kind of add in on this conversation before we move on to the Nuggets?
Yeah, I don't know his specific situation. Obviously, everyone's health is different. I'll just say in general, it's it's hell anyway being a pro athlete because even when you're quote fully healthy, you aren't really ever fully healthy. You're rehabbing something, you're nursing something, and or you're trying to get back to a certain level of play because of how much, competitive athletics takes out of you. Now dealing with something chronic like this, I'll just say I won't blame him if he decides to step away from the game.
Yeah,
If he doesn't and wants to keep playing, full credit to him. I hope then that let's keep it real. A couple poor outings, kind of like what we've seen from Rafael Devers early on. In large part, Rafael Devers deserved the flack that he got. I'll just say for Chris Bryant, he won't. He won't in that case.
All right.
that's a good
So we'll
point.
do one last comment here. The only way that Rikers can be good is if a team is sold or God strikes down the Dodgers. I'm
Yeah,
talking
it's
I used to
tough.
capitalize God, but okay. We'll let that slide for the day. All right. All right. So let's go on to the Nuggets. Let me ask you a 6-word question, Dak. Actually, you know what?
Sure.
Let me ask it to Gabriel first. I want to hear his take on this first before we get to yours. That way you can rebuttal whatever Gabriel says, right? Gabriel, will the Nuggets beat the Clippers?
Uh, yeah.
That's it. That's all you got. Yeah, all that build up, all that stuff. I mean,
I had to like mull it over. I was weighing all my options, and all my energy was into the thinking. The output
Okay.
didn't take much. But either way, yeah. I mean, I like the Nuggets still. Obviously, a really odd situation that we're about to discuss that happened. But in terms of being the Clippers, listen, the Clippers are good, and I like a lot of parts about them, but they are not without flaws themselves. So for me, this is closer to a coin flip decision than not. And I happen to call heads, and I think it'll come up heads.
so then
Boom.
is it going to go to 7 games, Gabriel?
I'll save Dak a little bit of further anguish and say he'll go to 6.
So it'll go to 6.
I
All right. So
agree.
Dak, same question. Can the Nuggets beat the Clippers?
anytime you have Nikola Jokic, you always have a shot. Let's be real here. Probably best. He is the best player in the world. When you have him on your team, excuse me, my earpiece is falling out. When you
You're
have him
good.
on your team, you always have a chance. Let's be honest. I see the Nuggets beating the Clippers in 6 games myself. Um,
Right.
uh, you look, it's crazy because I think, I mean, I was looking it up as before when I came on tonight, but I know the Clippers they're not going to be any pushover in this series. I know they rank first in their last 21 games in terms of the offense that they have. The Nuggets haven't really been a team that is known for their defense, and I know a lot of that was because of the energy that they lacked when Michael Malone was at the helm, their coach. They got tired of that him as their voice. It sounds like. Now with David Adelman running the show now, it seems like the players have gravitated and they're playing with a rejuvenated type of energy. Um, I can see the Nuggets, like I said, going in 6. Russell Westbrook, for me, could be an X factor for the Nuggets. After it's funny because he just came from the Clippers. And the reason why I say that is because he can be that other facilitator that can spare Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic and play on the floor and conduct an offense. When if they're happen to be both off at the same time off the court. But also another matchup that I would like to take a look at and find out is Aaron Gordon and Kawhi Leonard. Okay, because I mean Aaron Gordon has been dealing with a nagging calf injury, and it's kind of limited him in terms of the defensive end. But I think as I mean, it looks like I mean, he's still able to be productive anyway with that injury, but um, that's why the Nuggets traded for Aaron Gordon to be that Kawhi Leonard slash LeBron James kind of stopper. Kevin Durant. I mean, you're never really gonna stop them, but it's just a matter if you can slow them down, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, so there was a lot to unpack right there. That gave us a whole bunch of stuff as far as that part goes. So, um, Dak, is it an advantage to have to wait so long? You already know who you're going to play. You've played them several times in the regular season, and now you've got to sit and wait until Saturday, I believe, to actually play your first game. Is that an advantage or a disadvantage, Dak?
The way I look at it is it can be an advantage. I guess it depends. It's depending on what's going on with the team, in my opinion. If you're dealing with injuries like the Nuggets, they can definitely use that chance to what's that word, recuperate and heal. Whatever they need to do, rest up to be ready for the game. I'm not too sure what the Clippers are dealing with, but it can help Kawhi Leonard as well because I know he's labeled as injury prone. So it could be beneficial for them as well. This is why this series is going to be quite interesting because they also have James Harden over there. I
Mm-hmm.
think he was averaging about 8.7 assists per game. He's a playmaker for them. And he can pull up on the perimeter, and be a threat to stretch the defense. You know what I mean? So the Nuggets really need to bring their A game. And one player that I have to point to that in defending um, James Harden is Christian Brown, our starting two guards, who has, in my opinion, could be one of the be a most improved player candidate in this on this Nuggets team and in the NBA in general with the way he's played this season.
All right. So, Gabriel, I'm going to switch the next question over to you and ask this. So, the Nuggets are coming in on a 2-game losing streak. What do you think about momentum going into the playoffs if a team's coming in losing or winning? Is it a big deal or you got your seed, you're okay, don't worry about it?
Yeah, no, that's fine. It's the end of the regular season, and especially with what went on, like you can't read into a 2-game winning streak or losing streak either way. I'll just say, in terms of this matchup itself, it's they're all the players, they know what to do. It's gonna be go time, and they play the way they play already. And once the playoffs start, then it hits another level. So I'm not going to be too worried about a streak either way at this point.
All right, so gentlemen, as we talk about the mile high highs and the lows, we're focusing right at the moment on the Denver Nuggets. We've already talked about the Colorado Rockies a little bit. We're doing that with our guest fanatic Dak. That's what he goes by on X, Twitter, Twix, whatever Elon's calling that thing today. So
Yeah.
we appreciate him being on here with us, and we're going to go to him for the next question as well, which is, so let's say that the Nuggets can beat the Clippers in the first round. They're more than likely going to get OKC in the second round. So, what is the chances that they can also beat OKC, Dak?
Man, they're division foes, but let me tell you, I know OKC is the one seed for a reason because they are loaded in terms of their depth and the way they can defend a team. They traded for Alex Caruso in the offseason, sending out Josh Giddey. That seems like it's played a big part in their ability to take that next step. They have Lou Dort, who's another defensive monster, that can guard the perimeter and cause havoc for maybe a Jamal Murray. So they have a good amount of dudes that they can throw at you. They just signed Isaiah Hartenstein in the offseason. And in terms of if what in terms of like they signed him because if they and I'm losing my train of thought. They signed him because to guard Jokic, if in case they did meet up in the postseason, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
Can anybody really guard Jokic? Let's be real. Nobody's guarding him. They're not defending him one on one. I'll be honest. You'll probably see some double teams to where maybe they force Jokic to disperse the ball and make someone else beat them. You know what I mean? The Nuggets always have a chance, as I alluded to in the previous question. With Jokic, you always have an opportunity. They're very familiar with each other. But for the Nuggets, I'd have to give them the edge for experience. They've been to the pinnacle and won the championship with basically the same players that are on this team, except for a few, that are added to the rotation.
Yeah, that's correct.
So, yeah, I mean, it's possible that they could beat OKC, and I think that series could possibly go seven game series if we're being honest.
Yeah, and sometimes the lights are just too bright. Sometimes it blinds the kids, right? So when you've got a roster like what OKC does, very talented but very young, sometimes those lights are just too darn bright for them.
Yeah.
So I want to ask both of you this final question here. And Ricky, if you're thinking to yourself, I've got questions I put up there, and he's not even putting my questions up there. We've got other things that it's going to match up with. So just let the host do his thing, right? He knows what he's doing. Okay, all right. Hey, so here's the final question for us on the Nuggets part. Will the house cleaning help or hurt this team in the playoffs, Gabriel? What do you think? The cleaning house, right?
Ooh.
They fired. Oh, is it going to? Oh, this might be one of the bigger questions of Denver sports right now, because what they do here in the next few games is going to determine how they move forward, right? So, what do you think, Gabriel? Is it going to help them or is it going to hurt them right now? I think long term is a different question and a different answer. But what about right now, in this moment, in the playoffs?
Right now, it's going to hurt them because I had them making it to the Western Conference Finals, and now I have them only winning round one and then losing in the second round. So, listen. I have a lot of respect for Michael Malone, and I just think in general, this kind of shock will have a huge impact. I understand the players; they're still going to go out there. They're still going to want to win. Obviously, they're not going to like lose for Coach Malone or something. I'm not saying anything silly like that, but it is seismic, and it is something like what just happened. What are we doing? And it has an effect, and that's why I don't think it'll have that much effect where they now don't get out of round one because of how good Jokic is. But they're gonna be playing a good team, and I think that'll take something out of them, and then to potentially, assuming things go to plan, to then be asked to beat OKC. I think that with everything going on, it'll just be too much.
Okay. Before I ask Dak basically the same question and get his answers on everything, I want to give you this. I want to give you we're talking about the NBA for a moment. We don't do a whole lot of NBA talk here on the Sportz Truth a lot. We try to focus mostly on baseball and football. But, because we have our special guest, Fanatic Dak, on with us today, we're going to make sure that we cover all of this stuff in the Denver sports media. Here's this. Torey Lovullo was hired as the Diamondbacks manager on November 4th, 2016. When the Suns hire their newest coach, it'll be their 7th coach in the same time frame that the Arizona Diamondbacks have had only Torey Lovullo. A little crazy. 7-1 are not good odds there. So,
Wow.
So yeah, I thought I would throw that stat out there real quick. Dak, same thing. Will the house cleaning help or hurt the Denver Nuggets right now as we speak in the playoffs?
For me, it's gonna help them. Now, make no mistake, I understand what Michael Malone meant to this organization. He played a big role in terms of them rebuilding that culture that they have developed over time with Jokic and Murray. After they lost Carmelo Anthony, I mean, it was like the Rockies at one point. I remember as a Nuggets fan, it's just there was nothing to really get up for. So Michael Malone, when he was hired after the Sacramento Kings did him dirty, I mean, him to come in here and change the culture the way he did, I really appreciate him. And I ain't gonna lie, I was a little choked up when they let him go. It was very surprising. I feel like it should have just been Calvin Booth, but what it sounds like is the message really wasn't getting across anymore after within that locker room. I know there were other things pertaining to the players not really liking how he favored Westbrook over the other players in terms of playing time or whatever the case may be. That's here nor there. Anyways, I just think, as I know it's just a small sample size. We've looked at the way the Nuggets have played these last 3 games,
Right.
but 2 out of the 3 teams, like Sacramento's not in the playoffs, are they? I can't remember. Did they get in the play-in? Anyways, the Nuggets went 3-0 against all 3 teams. Houston is a 2 seed. They played their starters on Sunday, and Nuggets blew them out the doors. I mean, it was only the score looked closer because that the Nuggets were up so much that both teams put in their bench, And then the previous game before that, the Nuggets went and blew out Memphis, I mean, excuse me, they were down 15, but they came back to beat Memphis, They're in that 4th quarter stretch. I think they went like on a 10-0 run or something, if I'm not mistaken. Anyways, it just seems like the Nuggets are playing with chip on their shoulder. And I have to refer back to the comments that Nikola Jokic made about waking the beast. You don't want to corner the beast, when they're, what's the word I'm looking for? When they're cornered, when they're, what's the word? Anyways, I'm drawing a blank right now. But it seems like this whole team has taken more of what's the word I'm looking for? This whole team is just as a collective team, they've like come back strong, with the change. It woke them up basically. Excuse me. With the head coaching change, because like also Nikola Jokic said, I look at this as a job, and if someone's getting fired, I might be next, kind of thing, So it definitely has made a big change in my opinion. I think the Nuggets, they can ride the momentum into the playoffs. I mean, a lot of people don't really put a lot into that, but I mean, this Nuggets team is dangerous, especially when they're cornered. You know what I mean? They've always played better when their backs are against the wall.
Okay. All right. So, you know a lot about that team. You know what they're doing. They may have to play some of these other people. Let's get a little bit of an update real quick on what exactly is going on with the NBA. Let's see, 7 minutes, 54 seconds left. Atlanta is down 81-95 to Orlando. So Orlando's up by 14 right at the moment. So, as I believe, let's see, one of our guys here was telling us, yeah, I know the Suns are bad and they're a clown show and all of that. Yeah, yes, absolutely. You're 100% right. You were talking about Jokic saying he might be the next one to get fired. I'm betting Kevin Durant's figuring he's going to be the next one to be traded or let go or move to a different team. However, that's going to work out as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
Denver Nuggets, we appreciate that. Both of you gentlemen are really giving us some great insight on that. Let's move to the Denver Broncos, the flag in the background, right? Let's move to them for a
Yeah, go
moment.
Broncos!
All right. So, Gabriel, I'll start with you. You're going to be on our show here. We're going to do a next week. We're going to be doing a mock draft right here on the Sportz Truth. I can't wait for that. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some things off air when we're done here. You're going to be surprised, I think, as to some of the stuff that we've put together for this show. Nobody else knows some of this stuff yet, so we'll start introducing some stuff over the next week or so. You're going to have 2 divisions to pick from. Are you picking the Denver pick, Gabriel, or not?
I don't recall.
Well, you were supposed to know, sir, because I didn't know. So then you were supposed to know. Daggone you.
Well,
Now we both look stupid. Thanks, bud.
yeah,
Appreciate
I know
that.
I don't.
Good,
Yeah, I
I'm
know I
good.
don't have the AFC East. That's all I know.
Okay. All right. That's fine. But so since you don't have that, who do you think the Broncos are going to take at number 20 in the upcoming NFL draft? Can you give us any inclination whatsoever before we get to Dak and ask him the same question?
Dak, you're gonna love this, my friend. I have 2 words for you: Ashton Genty.
I love that, man. I love that. I'd be thrilled if that was the case, man. I would be thrilled.
All right. So, Dak, I would say that. We'll get to a question here in a moment that I think that might fall into. But what do you think is a realistic possibility? Because I'm not sure if that guy, that big running back, is going to get down to 20. But what do you think is a more realistic possibility for the Denver Broncos at pick number 20?
Man, I would like to see the Broncos go after. I mean, it's kind of hard to say because we've heard a lot of players that have been trending up or what have you. But if it was my choice, I'd definitely be drafting Amarian Hampton, who's a 3-down running back from North Carolina that runs with with some power. He can catch out of the backfield. He can make a difference. Something that the Broncos he's dynamic. The Broncos didn't have anything like that in last year in terms of their running back room. You saw him what he did with the scouting combine. He looked like a Greek goddess, excuse me, out there running, doing the 40 time. He's a beast. I'd be so happy to have him in a Broncos uniform. We need our Terrell Davis. It's been so long that we've had an elite running back. I think since Clinton Portis. I know we can point to no Sean Marino or maybe C.J. Anderson, but you can kind of point maybe towards the scheme if that was the reason maybe for their success. I don't know.
Okay.
But the Broncos need an elite running back. Bo Nix in some games was the leading rusher, and you can't have that again, especially going into a vital year where that's concerning for some folks when they mention the sophomore slump. I think that's one way that you prevent that sophomore slump happening if you give them a good run game. And the Broncos went and just added defense. So I think the running back would be ideal in this. Excuse me. In this scenario, I know the Broncos have tackled the immediate needs, no pun intended, with adding a safety
Nice.
that was a linebacker. But what continues to be the eyesore of this team right now is the running back room, and you need to add a running back.
Okay. So on as far as on some of the other things that I've seen up here on the comments, hang on, I will get back to those. Let me go back to one of our other good buddies who's writing for us on www.welikesportspc.com as well. He's saying the Broncos should get either offensive line help or a defensive front. So, Gabriel, I'm going to bring it back up to you for a second. Tell me 1, 2, and 3. Running back, offensive line, defensive line. What do the Broncos need? Tell me which one's 1, which one's 2, which one's 3.
Yeah, I'd probably go O-line, defensive line, and then O-line, running back, then D-line.
Okay. Dak, would you agree with that, or would you give them in a different order, sir?
Real quick, I would do running back, defensive line, and then offensive line. We need some depth for the defensive line. But real quick, to touch on the running back position, I think Amarian Hampton reminds me a lot of Josh Jacobs, and Sean Payton was a big fan last free agency of Josh Jacobs. So just keep that in mind. He's a violent runner, you know. The Broncos O-line last year ranked number 1 in terms of run blocking. So they didn't really get any good production out of the running back room, let's be honest. I think that's right now at the top of my list, if we're being honest. I know the running back position, due to supply and demand, is a little disrespected, in my opinion, in terms of like what's the position of value, you know. But the running back, other than the quarterback, touches the ball second most than any other position in the game. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so 5 minutes, 55 seconds left in the Orlando Magic Atlanta Hawk game. Orlando is 99, and Atlanta is at 84. So just keeping you updated on that game as it's going on while we are sitting here doing the Sportz Truth. Once again, I am Mike Valentine. You can find the Sportz Truth podcast at the 643 and Out pod. And you're like, well, no, wait a minute. You just confused me. What's going on with all these things, right? So 643 and Out, we're combining two different things together. 643 like a double play in baseball, and 3 and Out like you can't get a first down in football. And we smashed those two things together and came up with the 643 and Out pod. You are listening to the Sportz Truth. That is the actual show we've got going on right the moment. Gabriel, I know you do some things on social media and stuff like that. You love to collaborate with other people. So tell me some of the things that you're going to be doing either in the past few days or what you got coming up, buddy.
Yeah, we're there on the Sports Pulse 100, and every Thursday we have Gridiron Guy. He that's his and he comes on and we talk football. So that's Thursday evening at Sports Pulse 100.
All right, fantastic. So if you like the football stuff and you want to jump on with Gabriel and his guests, then you can certainly do that this coming Thursday. And it sounds like every Thursday. So fantastic.
Right.
Yeah, so Dak, the Broncos have 1 pick in each of the first 4 rounds. As a Broncos fan, I'll ask Gabriel as a non-Broncos fan here in a moment, but for you as a Broncos fan, how many of those first 4 picks have to be starters in order for the Denver Broncos to say, we had a successful draft?
Ooh, I would say at least, because we have a lot of starters in place, to be honest, as a Broncos fan. I would say maybe 2, to be honest, and then you round out your roster. I think that would be solid. I mean, that would be big time if you come away with 2 starters out of those first 4 picks, you know, in my opinion. You can get, because I know we signed Evan Ingram. Let me just give you like a quick scenario. So we just signed Evan Ingram in the offseason. But he's not really like an inline kind of tight end, you know what I mean? So say you draft Poston Loveland in the first round, you know? He can be that inline tight end, you know, and he could be a good complement to a Evan Ingram, in my opinion. I think and then say if you did get a running back in the second round, I'm flipping scenarios, because the running back depth, as you guys know, is so deep in this draft class. You come out in the second round with a starting running back, there's 2 starters right there, and I'm pretty happy the way, especially if it's offense, you know, it makes such a difference. And you can very well come out with a starting defensive lineman and within the first 4 rounds because of the depth as well. You know what I mean? So definitely a good draft. It's funny because it's a draft where the Broncos have their needs, and it's depth this time, depth in terms of the Broncos' needs, which is good. Happened last year with the quarterback position as well.
Oh, we'll get to Bo Nix here in just a few moments. I'm gonna use something Ricky Logan put up here a few moments ago. He sparked me. I was writing some stuff down while all this was going on. So, Ricky, you inspired me. All right. So, Gabriel, what about your team? Let's move it to the Patriots for a second. Okay. So, if the Patriots, what do they have to do in their first 4 picks for it to be successful? And do you have the same opinion about your team that Dak does about his Broncos, saying, yeah, if we get 2 good starters out of those first 4 picks, are you happy with that? Do you want 3? Do you want 4? What do you want as a fan out of your team when it comes to the NFL draft?
No, I have the same answer regardless of the team. You don't need to put a quote on how many starters you get out of the draft. It depends on who's available. It depends on who ends up getting picked. What you need is someone who can play significant snaps and to not have a big drop off. So regardless if it ends up being a starter or not, that's all you're worried about. Particularly, I would say, for example, line play. You probably aren't going to be starting as a rookie, but if you can come in and spell someone on 3rd down, spell someone when they get an injury, that's all that matters.
That's a good point, man. That is a good point. I think that's a lot of us sometimes, like, that's the way I used to think before, is like, what's a starter, anymore? Like, it matters, like, in terms of, like, the snap count and if you can be effective on the field when you play.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, at least your Red Sox won today, right? I'm going through and checking some scores right at the moment as I'm scrolling through. So they beat Tampa Bay today, right? So
the fight to 500.
Right. Maybe since you won and you're trying to get Dak's team to win today, maybe they'll pull out a win too.
Oh yeah, man. Go Red Sox.
I'm a heavy Rockies fan today.
Right.
Good.
All
Same
right.
here. I'll be Red Sox, bro. We'll support each other's teams.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're going to jump back into baseball real quick. We're going to give the Colorado Rockies perspective one more time. We're going to look at some of their kids that they've got coming up, because I think this is a fascinating time for the Colorado Rockies. I believe the rest of this season and probably next season will be a big play as to how the Colorado Rockies are going to be for the next 4 to 6 years. So we'll touch on that here in just a second. But I also want to say this. I don't know what happened today with the San Francisco Giants. I was trying to scroll through as you guys were talking, and I didn't see the game. So as of yesterday, we'll put it that way, because that's where I got this stat. The San Francisco Giants have improved to 9-2 on the road and have yet to commit an error in any of their road games. It's one of the things that's it's never been done for this many games in a row to start the season.
Wow.
So yeah. Kudos to the San Francisco Giants for being able to pull that off. The Rockies have a bunch of kids. I'm going to kind of call them the Colorado kids here for a minute, right? And we're going to take.
I like it.
You like that, do you, Dak? All right. Well, you can. I'll give that one to you for free, sir. You can use that from now on. Maybe you can do an article for www.welikesportsbc.com, and you can title it Colorado Kids, right? Okay. So how about Adele Amador, right? I believe that's how you pronounce it. Second baseman there for the Colorado Rockies. Tell me what you think of him and what the potential he may have for the Rockies fans.
Well, he is a switch hitter. I like that he's a solid defender, in my opinion. I think he just got called up recently, with the Rockies because of injury to Tyler Freeman that they had traded for.
Correct.
For Nolan Jones. In terms of his batting production, it hasn't been there, but it's a small sample size. He's 0 for 6 right now in batting, but I know he's known for his defense more than anything. So,
absolutely.
That's
So
where I stand with that.
All right, I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to cut you off there. 22 years old. He's an infielder. He's basically a second baseman. So, Gabriel, if your team has and your team does, right? You have a similar situation there in Boston where you've got a youngster playing second base. So you kind of know how this is. using that as your backdrop and trying to give Dak and his fans some hope here. What do you think? What do you think a good young second baseman can do to a ball club, whether it be Boston or whether it be Colorado?
I mean, yeah, at this point, I'll focus a little more on Colorado. At this point, I think you're kind of continuing and in the process of, okay, well, this guy, he can play good. So we want to make sure that when that time comes, we do everything we can do to keep him. Um, not a lot is going right for Colorado. So being able to
Right.
find someone who for now is a gem, it is huge, I think. And it gives you hope in terms of, all right, we
Right.
got him. We're only a piece or two away, and the turnaround's on, baby. Let's go.
Yeah.
I'll just say on the flip side, because we want to make sure that we leave Dak in a bad mood. You're then
It's so
also
funny.
worried that another team will say, "Wow, this guy's good. We could use him on our team." And by another team saying that, I mean the Yankees or the aforementioned team in LA. So that's always the other part of the
Yeah.
where these gems very quickly are no longer
Right.
gems. They're
Right.
just
Exactly.
All right, Dak. So you did an article on the next guy I want to take a little look at here. You did an article on Chase Dollander, right? And how you say it, Dollander?
Dollander. Yeah.
Yep, that's what I thought. Okay, so I wasn't 100% sure. Once again, they do spring training and stuff out here. I got to see the Rockies a few times in spring training. The next guy we'll talk about really impressed me. We'll talk about him here in just a second. But so they've got an infielder, now they've got a pitcher. Who do you think is going to be the most important key to this Colorado Rocky turnaround? Either the guy we already talked about at second base, this starting pitcher maybe. Which one of those two do you think really has to shine for them in order to turn this franchise around and not have a third 100 game losing season?
You need pitching to be successful in this MLB league. If I'm being honest, whether it's 1, 2, 3, or 4, whatever. The Rockies do not have that. I mean, they've been decent in terms of the standard for a Rockies pitcher. I think their ERA right now is like 4.89. I can't remember off the top of my head. But it's not bad, but it's not perfect either. But Chase
It's in the middle of
Dollander,
the pack.
if he can find consistency, and I know he's still young. He was drafted in 2023. I remember reading a scouting report that um, compared him, and I know comparisons are kind of like a disservice to players, because of the trajectory if they don't live up to those expectations, or whatever. But I think he was compared to Jake DeGrom is the one and it just raised my eyebrows. In terms of his velocity that he has as a pitcher, he can easily hit in the high 90s. 97 was his average, and then he has a curveball, and I want to say his other pitch was a slider. So I mean, it's good in the mile high, thin air that to have a good pitcher that thrives with high velocity. You know what I mean? And his last start too, honestly, he I think he only gave up 2 runs, which was a home run, one of them being a home run.
Mhm.
Um, but the Rockies in both of his starts, to be honest, didn't produce any runs to up the kid at all. You know what I mean? So I think he's gonna be something. I can feel it. I just get that different aura. He has that aura about him that you can just sense his command on the mound, and the way he carries himself, that he has it.
nice.
That is nice. As far as that part goes, we're doing mile high highs and lows here. For those of you who are just joining us, and there's several people that have just jumped on, where we keep climbing those numbers. You can click on the comment section. You can put things in, as I've been doing with some other people here. We have a lot of people on board with us right now that are doing so. Just to keep you updated on the score of the game over here, the Orlando Magic are starting to rub it in the faces of the Atlanta Hawks now. Let's see, 1 minute 21 seconds left. It's 120-29 120 to 91 right at the moment. So the Magic are starting to pull away.
The Magic, real quick, sorry. The Magic have Contavious Caldwell Pope that used to play with the Nuggets too, so that's cool. They hear that they're winning.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to look at the third guy, and this is a guy who really impressed me during spring training. I actually spoke to him a little bit. He wouldn't sign the card that I had. He was signing for a bunch of youngsters, but as he was signing for the kids, I was talking to him a little bit, and I was happy with that. So not all the time do you have to sign what I've got or whatever. I'm a big autograph guy. You can see a few things in the background as I get the room put together behind me. For those of you who have been with us for a while, you've seen just white walls behind me and nothing up. So I'm starting to put the room together behind me, and we're starting to get all these autographs up. I've probably got, I don't know, without lying, there's 350 or so autograph things that I've got here in the room and ready to be put up as well. So I'm a big guy into that. But the guy I'm talking about is Zach Veen. He is 111 games the last 2 years. He's an outfielder, and he's only 23 years old. Now, he's got a little bit of an injury history too, Dak and Gabriel. But I really think this guy is going to deliver. In fact, I was shocked that he didn't get put on the 26-man roster out of spring training.
Right.
Beeks, I don't know if it's Beeks or Bex, but he got the job over him. And now Veen is up. Yeah, now Veen is up and he is down. So here's my Gabriel. I'm going to go to you real quick before we go to Dak, and then when we're done with this, and we're going to go rapid fire here for a few minutes. Gabriel, when you get a good young influx of talent, and they can really hit the ball. Veen is a power guy. He's not a gap guy. He's not he's not a singles hitter. He's an extra base and over the fence guy. So when you get a guy like that on your team, Gabriel, what can that do for the rest of the players? How can that galvanize everybody together?
Yeah, I would say, that it serves any ball club really well, as teams are becoming more and more okay with, big game hunting, a little less small ball. It's okay if you strike out. Granted, you don't want to do it maybe to the extent that Rafael Devers did early on, but hey, he turned it around. Let's go Red Sox. But that aside, it then becomes something awesome when they get that big hit, when they get, I was about to say when they get a double off the Green Monster, but not every ballpark is iconic. It's fine. So when they get that big hit, it then really galvanizes teams. Like, okay, let's go. That's exactly what we needed. So, as long as you can keep the lows infrequent enough to where it's not a conversation and where that then doesn't become a distraction, it's awesome.
Yeah. Good point.
All right. So, you guys have got some other talent as far as that part goes. You do have, let's see, you got Brandon Doyle, of course, really good.
Yeah.
You guys got Tovar at short. So I believe it's looking up for the Colorado Rockies, but I'm not sure if it's going to be a big.
Anytime soon that I don't see a turnaround. You know what I mean? Like, we're not going to see that.
Right.
Okay. Sorry if at all, to be honest. Not to be that kind of guy.
Oh, no.
No, don't depress all of the Rockies fans out there, all right, buddy? Wow. I know it's mile high highs and lows, but how about we do more highs than lows, okay? How about we do that? All right. So, Gabriel, I'm just going to have you sit there and look pretty in your little Spurs hat there for a second. We're going to go rapid fire with our buddy, Fanatic Dak here. Dak, tell us where we can find you at on Twitter, and do you have any other social medias that people can find you on?
You can find me at Denver DMark on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. I have Instagram, Facebook. I go by Dakota Marquez on there. Those are my social media accounts that I have. Oh, Blue Sky, I can't remember, but at Fanatic Dak, I believe I have it set as. I can't remember off the top of my head, but if whoever's watching this happens to be on X or the social media that I put out there just now, DM me and I can give you my Blue Sky once I find it.
Oh boy. Okay, so now we're gonna rapid fire you real quick here, buddy. All right. So we're just gonna shoot. Of 6 of the questions. Like I said, Ricky Logan inspired me to make a 7th question here. So
All
we're
right.
gonna rapid fire you, Gabriel. Just gonna hang out over there for a second and look pretty in a Spurs hat, and then we're gonna bid you adieu here in just a moment. And Gabriel and I are gonna focus a little bit more on some other baseball topics. So here we go. Dak. Who wins the championship first? The Nuggets, the Rockies, the Broncos, or the Avalanche?
Let's be real here. I'm going to say the Broncos. That's my number 1 team first and foremost.
All right, not that you start this thing off being a homer or anything, but that's fine. So, is Denver large enough to also support a WNBA franchise?
100% yes. You look at the success that a lot of Denver teams have had. Why not add a women's NBA team to give them that chance to have the same success?
In your opinion, the Denver Broncos will trade up, trade back, or make the pick at number 20?
It's nice to have the flexibility, but I would say they'll make the pick at 20.
Will the Rockies lose 100 games for the 3rd year in a row?
Yes.
Oh, he said that way too quick. Just put a dagger in everybody's heart, and they're bleeding purple there. Poor Gabriel, not even a Rockies fan, and he's biting his hands over there in the corner. Who will the Nuggets' new head coach be?
Man, I'm open-minded, but I'm going to say David Adelman will be the guy when it's all said and done.
All right. Will Deion Sanders fulfill his 5-year contract with the Colorado Buffaloes that he just recently signed?
Absolutely.
All right. We'll talk more Colorado Buffaloes here in just a few moments when we will bid Fanatic Dak adieu here. And here's the question that you don't know anything about. It wasn't in the show notes, and Ricky gave it to me when he put this up earlier on the comment section. All of you guys who are still with us, we got over 60 people with us right now live on the Sportz Truth. You can put a question up here like this as well. He says Jokic is nearly the only thing going for the city of Denver right now. And then he says maybe Bo Nix. So here's your 7th and final rapid fire question here, Dak. Who owns Denver? Nikola Jokic or Bo Nix?
Bo Nix. Let's be real. The Broncos country loves their quarterbacks. I mean, I know the Nuggets are. Jokic is spectacular, but the Broncos is a football town. If we're being real, first and foremost.
All right.
Oh, and real quick, Jokic, Bo Nix. Don't forget Nathan McKinnon in hockey.
All right. I don't know who that is. I'm not a hockey guy, so I apologize for not being a hockey guy, but that's why it's not hockey truth, okay? All right. Hey, Dak, man, this has been really fun, man. Thank you for coming on with us. We certainly appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys having me.
Of course, buddy. We'll have to have you on sometime soon. We got some other writers who I know that are with us right at the moment, including that guy who's going to start writing about the New York Metropolitans and some other stuff for us. Maybe we'll have to fit him on this screen too. So, Dak, as you go, and let's see, has it gone final? It has 120-95. Orlando has won that game 120-95.
Good for them.
So as we bid you adieu, sir, what are you working on as far as articles for www.welikesportspc.com? What can we expect next from Dak?
Oh well, I do like the idea of the young guns, with the Rockies. I'm looking at maybe doing a Broncos article on Marvin Mims being the wide receiver 2 for them.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I got going on. I'm trying to think about some other things, but that's what I got for now.
All right. Hey, man, that's all we need. Once again, we certainly appreciate you coming on with us, Dak. Thank you very much. In fact, you know what?
It was a pleasure meeting you too, Gabriel.
Likewise, Dak.
Thank you, guys.
All right, sir. Well, thank you very much. We're going to bid you adieu. We're going to go on with the rest of the show. Thank you very much, Dak. We'll see you soon.
Thank you for having me, guys. Good night.
Not a problem, bud.
See you later, Dak.
All right, Gabriel. That was fun. Being able to bring on
He was
guys.
awesome.
Yeah, you could tell he was a little nervous at first, but I think he got a little comfortable and a little more comfortable as I went into it. You can tell he's a fan first, right? He's not one of these guys. He's not a somebody that just throws stuff out there because he's trying to get views or he's trying to get attention. He's a real fan, and that's what we try to do here on the Sportz Truth as well. Is try to get the real guys
like
on.
I liked
Yeah,
how quickly he said yes to your question of will the Rockies get 100 losses? No hesitation.
no hesitation whatsoever. He was like, "Bam! Of course they will, Valentine." So yeah, not a problem. You were over there biting your hands. I thought maybe you were going to get to the bone there for a second.
No, that got me. That got me.
Oh man, here we go. Rubbing salt in the wounds over here. We got Roger just rubbing that salt in. No, I think he's with somebody else's team right at the moment. Where's Tulowitzki at, buddy? Okay, never mind.
Asking for a friend.
Asking for a friend, right? I'm not sure if Roger has any friends. Maybe Ricky, but that'd be the only one. So, anyway, so I want to talk about a matter real quick that we need to get a little serious on. We did a little bit last week on Jared Duran for the Red Sox. We talked about mental health and the mental illness, things like that. There was another one that popped up this week, and I want to talk about it for a moment. Gabriel, we need to talk about this and be. I know we kind of joke around here a lot, and we do some kind of off the wall stuff, but every once in a while we need to kind of get serious on this and focus in. A former LSU receiver, I believe it's Kyrene Lacey, died over the weekend of an apparent suicide before he crashed his car. He had previously been in a driving reckless accident which led to the death of an elderly man. He was more than likely going to get picked in the upcoming draft, and now he's gone. We'll talk about what his dad said here in a couple moments. Let me ask you this, Gabriel. I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here. Don't get too upset with me. Have you ever come to a crossroads in your life where it's like, okay, I can choose I can go right or I can go left, and you either made the right or the wrong choice? You ever, you're like in your 20s, right, Gabriel? So you probably haven't had too many of those spots in your life, but just kind of putting you on the spot there for a second. I think that's where these athletes are, right? A lot of pressure. You're getting ready to be drafted. You just graduated. You're one of the top receivers in the country, and with all that pressure, sometimes I don't want to say you crumble under it, but maybe sometimes it gets to you a little bit. You ever been in a situation like that where pressure got to you, and how did you react to that, Gabriel?
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't make sense to really say that you live with regret, because that's kind of, in my opinion, that's kind of useless, a useless approach to something, to a situation that you could have done better. Instead, I view it more like, well, if I were put in that exact same scenario again, I would have done it different. I would have done it differently, and so consequently, hopefully, I've learned from it. That's what I view as more helpful and useful, rather versus regret. So, certainly a number of aspects where I would say, yeah, I zig when I should have zagged.
Right. So his dad came out today. I'm not sure if you saw any of the posts that his father put up. The one that really got me, I deal with a lot of first responder stuff. We have some crazy stuff happen every once in a while, and it really affects people in different ways. You just never know how it's going to do that. So he said, "Don't be cool with I'm all right or I'm good." Especially if there's some kind of underlying issue. Don't just be like, oh, well, okay, Gabriel said he was okay, or Gabriel said he was good, so I'm just going to ignore it, and I'm just going to let things go. And then something else happens, and it snowballs, and you didn't pressure to get some of those answers. So I think what his dad said should be taken to heart. So what do you think about giving people the right advice, Gabriel?
I would say it more so has to do with when you see a really drastic change, because for some people their demeanor is just, oh, I'm good, and that's just how they kind of keep their head down, chug along. But
Right.
if someone who's typically pretty uppity and pretty like very expressive then suddenly shifts to, "Oh, I'm good," and it's like a mumbling persona, then that's where that kind of advice I would say come into play more so.
Right. So you know your friends, right? I mean, I'm sure Gabriel, you've got at least a couple. So you know them pretty well, and you know how they are from day to day and stuff like that. So I agree with what you said. If you see a big change in someone, then maybe it's
Yeah.
time to intervene. So once again, we do the whole suicide prevention thing. There is a number that you can call. Make sure that you get the help that you need, and by any stretch of the imagination, we'll put this out there, right? Like I said, I deal a lot with these kinds of things with the first responders and stuff like that. And I'll just throw this out there. You can always go to at the 643 and out pod. Shoot me a message if you want some kind of a direction from someone that's not going to judge you or anything like that. And you can leave me anything that you need. I will. I'll be there for you. And it's a very touchy subject here. We're going to try to tread lightly on it a little bit, but I also want to bring it to light and let everybody know that there are some people out there. There's someone who loves you. There's someone who cares about you, and taking your life is never the way to go, in my opinion. Okay, so we won't linger on that too much more. Right, we'll move right on to our best of the rest here. We're going to do what are we going to do here, buddy? 6 different questions here to wrap up the show. That was number 1. We talked about that with the LSU receiver. Let's go to the Colorado Buffaloes for a moment. The Colorado Buffaloes will retire the number 2 jersey worn by Shedeur Sanders. They're going to retire the number 12 jersey worn by Travis Hunter, and they're going to do that at their red and white game, or whatever it's gold and black game, or it's the spring game, whatever you want to call that. So my question to you is this: can or should you be able to retire? Here we go. Can or should you retire college football jerseys? What do you think, Gabe?
Oh yeah, I think for sure you can. There are definitely players who have had such an impact on the program where I think it 1,000% makes sense, or at least have them up in wherever the equivalent for that school's ring of honor is. In terms of no one else wearing that jersey number again, um, I'm okay with it in some cases. I'll just say I think doing it as shortly as it's been since they've played their last snap at Colorado, I would say for me, this is too quick of a turnaround to retire the jerseys of Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter.
Right. I want to find the quote. I believe it was, oh man, the ex Pittsburgh Steeler, Ricky. If you're still listening, I know you helped me with the tweet. You put it up there on our platform as well. Let me see if I can find it real quick as we kind of talk and do all of this right the moment. Man, what was the quarterback's name? He played for the Steelers. Quick little guy. He played for Colorado. Oh, Cordell Stewart. There we go. I found it. So Cordell Stewart doesn't have his number retired. He won 2 bowl games and finished in the top 10 twice, but he's not the coach's son. So that was a tweet that was brought out by Brian Drake. His handle was at Drake Fantasy. So I thought that was interesting, right? So I get what you're saying, and man, I'm gonna piggyback off of all of this, and I'm gonna look everybody right in the face and say, I don't like this. I don't like you calling attention to your son. I don't like you calling attention to these guys right before they're going to the draft. I mean, don't tell me that this story didn't come out right now on purpose, right? They haven't done anything. The Colorado Buffaloes barely had winning seasons. They didn't do enough to deserve to have a jersey retired. I'm sorry, but they did not. No championships. No, what they went to a bowl game and lost. I mean, that's not a reason to retire anybody's jersey. I don't care what that individual person did. I think it really depends a lot on how they led that team and therefore what that team did. So I don't like this at all. This is just a stunt. It reminds me of something that Deion would have done a while back. He's kind of stopped these stunts. He's the reason, and I'm going to jump onto a soapbox here. I'm actually going to get on two soapboxes. This will be the first one. We'll get on another soapbox later. There's something else that we're going to talk about that I just don't like. We'll get to that here in a moment, but I don't like this. They didn't do anything to deserve it. And I also think you're slapping some of those other kids in the face who did do a lot to deserve it, who did more than what Shador did and did more than what Travis did. And you're not retiring them, kind of like the Cordell Stewart thing. So before I go too crazy here, Gabriel, what are you thinking? You still okay with how they're doing it, or not?
Well, no, for me, it's more a question of the element of time and seeing what comes after it. So it'll kind of look silly to retire them now, and for then Colorado to take off and be an annual, let's just go really silly, be an annual 12-win team. To then retire Travis Hunter and Shador Sanders at that point, that would be it will then look misplaced.
Mm-hmm.
If 10 years from now that we see, oh wow, they really did reach the pinnacle of their time, then I would be okay at that point in retiring their jerseys. So for me, it's just a question of we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know where this program is going to be. And they're just usually what happens is you retire the jersey way after the fact, and it's kind of a remember when moment, not a this just happened a half tick ago. And so that's more so the issue I have. For me now, I'm just speaking for me. Their play and their impact on the program may have ended up warranting be having their jersey retired. At this moment, I just think it's too early.
So then you're basically not if I'm understanding what you're saying right, and I agree with you. If this is the way you're phrasing it, the way I think you are, it's not just their college. Um, it's not just what they have done in college. They go to the NFL, like you said, they go to the pinnacle of the NFL. Maybe they get some playoff wins under their belts in the NFL, and they make a difference there. Then you come back and you do that moment to where you retire the jersey in Colorado after they accomplish more stuff when they get to the NFL, right?
Oh, no, no, no. I was saying we have to see how the Colorado team does. So when I said the pinnacle, so what if this is the pinnacle of Colorado football?
Ah, gotcha. I'm glad I clarified because that wasn't what I thought you were doing there. So yeah. So what you're basically saying is, this is the best Colorado's going to be for the next 10 years, and then maybe we look at this different.
Right. And so if this is the peak of Colorado football, then yeah, those two probably should have their jerseys retired. It's like, well, look, this is the Mount Rushmore of Colorado football in the 2000s. Look at this. But if Colorado goes on in 2026, 2027, 2028, and they make the college football playoffs every year and they win the Big 12, 3, 4 times in a row, it's going to look a little bit silly, in my opinion, to then have Shador Sanders and Travis Hunter's jerseys up there. That's just how I view it, which is why I think it's not a great move to retire a jersey. I mean, they're still, I think, technically still on campus. I'm sure they're not on, but you get what I mean. Like they
Right.
just finished.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely understand what you're talking about. So let's move on to baseball for a second here. The Yankees starting pitching ERA as a whole is 5.46. Now, I know as a Red Sox fan, you're just like, oh, right? But they have a 5.46, which is worst in the league. Yet Codify, which is one of those companies that looks at averages and things like that, they still give them a 67% chance of making the playoffs. So, Gabriel, what gives here? Is this just like MLB trying to influence this and be like, hey, if it's the Yankees, we can't let them drop off too much. I know the ERA is terrible right at the moment, but let's put out a couple other stats out there so that they look better. Or what is this? Is this a propaganda machine here between baseball, Codify, and the New York Yankees? What do you think?
No, and listen, we're just talking bad of other teams, and I'm all for it today. Um, this is just a case of listen, when they get hot at the bats, they're hot, and so plus the AL East is, let's just call it tight for right now, and they're ahead of it. The Orioles, they've had a really bad start. My Red Sox, again, we're still on the campaign to hit 500 again, to get back to 500 balls. So,
Right.
but the Orioles were my preseason AL East pick. That's looking awful. And as of right now, the Yankees look like I'll just say they're in pole position to win the division, but more importantly, more to the question. Listen, they've got the batters where they're going to be in a lot of games despite their pitching. And so that's for me more so what that has to do with. Imagine if they got their staff in order. I mean, this would be everyone would be really looking forward to a Yankees Dodgers World Series, kind of talking along those lines. No one's talking about it in that frame at all, and with reason. The Yankees haven't earned that, but I'm not going to say propaganda. To me, it's just like, okay, they're right now the best of what to this point has been an overrated AL East, and we know what they can do on offense.
Right. I'm trying to look up the post here that I have on our social media. You can go to at the 643 and out pod, and you can get that there as well. Here we go. So chances of making the playoffs. I had to throw this in here because, poor Colorado and the Chicago White Sox, they're already say they have zero chance of making the playoffs like 3 weeks into the season. So, that I think that 100-win season is right on the doorstep there for poor Dak. But so the Cincinnati Reds actually have one of the top 3 pitching ERAs, just to give you an example, in baseball right at the moment, especially with Hunter Green. We'll talk about Hunter here in just a second. But they're only giving Cincinnati a 9% chance of making the playoffs with a really good rotation. And I think it's kind of funny how they get way at the bottom of that list, yet the Yankees are a terrible pitching organization right at the moment, and they're still way up at the top of that list. It's LA 98%, then you got Philly and New York at 74%, and then New York and Detroit at 67%. So they are tied for third as far as what they think their playoff chances are right at the moment. I think they're giving the Yankees a little too much credit, and I think some of those other teams that have better pitching, they're not giving them enough credit right at the moment. So I don't know. I wanted to bring it up. I saw the post, and I was like, wow.
I think your wild card path is going to be tougher for your Reds compared to the Yankees, though.
Right, and we do have to take that into consideration, the division in which they're in, and what are there good teams around them? And as you're already talking about, are we scared of the Toronto Blue Jays if you're Yankees? If you're a Yankees fan, are you scared of the Baltimore Orioles if you're a Yankees fan? Are you scared of the Boston Red Sox if you're a Yankees fan? You're right. The division you're in, the overall spot that you're going to be with. So yeah, I get that. It is. Will they make the playoffs? So I do understand and get the question as far as that part goes. So after getting the win against Baltimore over the weekend, I don't know if you saw this or not, Jeff Hoffman blew a kiss at the Orioles dugout. And the Orioles pulled out of his $40 million contract this year deal in the offseason. So he was basically, he got the win. He blew the dugout a kiss. So, Gabriel,
Yep.
Are you all right with him making a gesture like that?
Listen, I'm all in favor for it. I'm also all in favor when, depending on how things work out, I'm all in favor with that being reciprocated and or fans saying something to the effect of, well, where's that kiss now? I'm all for smack talk. I'm all for all of that. You won the moment. Good for you. You're a high level athlete who's playing Major League Baseball. To an extent, in my opinion, you've earned the right to do something silly like this. Just people keep receipts, and so don't be surprised when it flies back in your face.
That's true. I'm going to look at it, I think, from a little different perspective here. When I first saw it, and one of these days, maybe the old man will be able to figure out how to post video and stuff up here, because I know it can be done. I just haven't looked into it enough to actually do it. We'll show some video and stuff like that probably next week during our big show that we'll talk about here at the end. But I was okay with it until I really started thinking about it. And I said to myself, did any of those people in that dugout make that decision to not give him that contract? Obviously, the answer is no, right? It was the front office that made that decision.
Mhm.
So the second part of it was, as the Baltimore Orioles, they run a business, they run a team, and if they don't want to give somebody a contract, they don't have to. So I get where Hoffman was. I don't want to say upset because he didn't like fist pump them. He didn't flip them off. He didn't do anything like that. He just blew him a kiss. And
Mhm.
I guess that's better than some of the alternatives that he could have done. But at the same point, I wanted to kind of bring up and see what you were thinking about this. When I say none of those people had anything to do with it, and Baltimore is allowed to make whatever decision they want to make as far as running their own franchise. So knowing those two facts,
Yeah.
what do you think about this whole thing with Hoffman and the Orioles?
Yeah, I mean, that's just part of sports, I guess for lack of a better term, they're the collateral from the fallout. But I'm not too worried about it because you know, again, there's gonna be the chance for, as they say, the emperor to strike back, and when when that day happens, listen. I'm all in favor of Hoffman doing this thing and kind of like letting it be, ba- in layman's terms, right? Or I guess phrased differently, he's basically saying, "See, this is why you should assign me." Or this is why you should give me what I was looking for, right? And so just again, just wait. Don't be surprised. Unfortunately they don't play again, but these things tend to come back, and it won't be this year in the regular season at least, but this will be an ongoing thing, and I'm okay with there being a little animosity for the 2026 season that we can already pencil in. Like I'm all for it.
Yeah, I mean, it builds intrigue. It gives us talking
Oh yeah.
points and stuff like that. So it's not a terrible thing. But I just wanted to kind of get both sides of it and
Yeah, yeah.
look at the Baltimore side as well. So here we go.
Mhm.
Last question that we're going to do today on the Sports Truth, Gabriel. Before we do our last question, buddy, where can we find you at on social media? And once again, give us a couple of things that you're going to be doing, like the show on Thursday. Tell us a little bit about that.
Mm. Sure. Thank you, Michael. Thank you. So first of all, we're here on the 643 and out pod every Tuesday. Then we're Thursdays at Sports Pulse 100. I have a guest on this Thursday, and we like sports.com. We like sports with a Z. Have a couple
Right.
articles up there.
You do, you do. Very, very good. And he's doing the Red Sox stuff for us at www.welikesports. Again, as Gabriel pointed out, with a Z. Then you have to put in the letters PC.com. So
Hmm.
it's scrolling across the bottom right there. You can go to those social media platforms. You can not only see my work, you can also see Gabriel's work. And of course, we had Fanatic Dak on earlier, our Colorado aficionado, and he has some stuff on the same site, as well as a lot of other talented writers. So visit that. Come back and see us next week. But before you do, make sure you get this last question, because here we go. I'm not sure if I can stay in my seat for this one. This one has me. It's got me a little upset, right? So here's the question: Aaron Judge has been named captain of Team USA. I don't like it at all. I'll explain to you why in a minute. But Gabriel, let me start with you. What do you think about Aaron Judge being named team, being named captain of Team USA? And this is for those of you who don't know. This is for the World Baseball Classic that'll be coming up here next year, I believe.
Yep. I can tell you the headline now for 2026. Breaking news: Team USA loses. So it's not great. It's not great at all. Maybe he proves us all wrong and goes on a nice postseason run. When that happens, that'll be the first time. So
Mm-hmm.
this isn't great. I don't understand why him. Listen, he's a really great player when he's on, and he can certainly got a lot. He has a lot of power in that bat. That's not necessarily a prerequisite to be your captain, though. That's enough to be considered the team's best player, but the team's best player doesn't need to be the captain. In this case, shouldn't. And I'm, you know, and I'm even giving him that by just to make the conversation a little easier. That's just assuming that he even is the best player, you know. Um, Again, if we know what the kind of droughts he can go through, where a lot of people will very quickly say ain't no way is he the best player. So to let alone calling him the captain. Good luck, Team USA. You're gonna need it.
Yeah, see, I don't like this move whatsoever, and I'll tell you the big reason why I don't like this move. And nobody said anything about this. Everybody seems to be on board with this. I don't know if it's because he's a Yankee. I don't know if it's because nobody wants to upset Mark DeRosa, whom, by the way, I really like. I watch his show MLB Central all the time. I really love his breakdowns, and there's nothing against Mark DeRosa whatsoever. But I don't like this at all because let me pull up one of your buddy here, power bat that scares pitchers and a tall dude. I
Yep.
get it, but there's a lot of better players with this skill set. 100% right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's not the best player. He might be the best hitter on that team, but he's definitely not the best player. He doesn't do the base running skills. He doesn't do. He doesn't have the acumen I think that a lot of other players have. He certainly doesn't have the defensive skills that a lot of other players have in the outfield. So, best hitter I might give him, like you say, when he's on. But here's my thing. He's never been on this team before, and all of a sudden, Aaron Judge wants to show up and be like, "Oh, hey, look at me!" Even though I've never been doing the Team USA thing, I've said no continuous times, and now it makes me wonder if he's like, "Yeah, okay, I'll do it, but you got to name me the team captain." I would love to know if that was the conversation that was had between Mark DeRosa and Aaron Judge.
Yes.
I do have to say, man, there are other people who are much more deserving of this title. I would even
Oh
say
yeah.
if you're going to, let me give you a few. And you guys can agree, disagree with me, click on the comments, leave something later on, come over to the Twitter spot that we've got, the X spot that we've got at the 643 and Out Pod. Let's continue this conversation maybe off air or something like that. Man, you bring somebody who has done a lot for this game, like Mike Trout should be it. I know he's been that in the past, and Mike graciously gave it to him, and I'll talk about that here in a moment. But even if you bring a guy, Andrew McCutchen, who has done a lot for this game, and he wants to be, that would have suited me much more than bringing in Aaron Judge and having him be the team captain. Just to throw people out there, right? And I know that Andrew is not near the player that he used to be, but that's not, again, you said it beautifully earlier. That's not necessarily what a team captain is, right? The captain doesn't necessarily have to be the best player. You look at the guys who wear C on their jerseys, and I would say most of the time they're not the best player on that field, but they're the glue guy, right? They're the motivator on that field, and they do things that really constitute them belonging there. And I don't think Aaron Judge does any of that. Another thing that I will say is Mike Trout. Daggone it, man! Gotta love this guy. And we may have this conversation later, probably like in an off season, when we can bring up a topic like this. But Mike Trout would be on my list of the 5 guys who I would love to just sit down and have a drink with, right? Just to be able to talk to him. Just give me Mike Trout and a microphone and let us talk for an hour. I don't know if you saw earlier in the week where he had that interaction with the fan. Don't get me wrong. Now, let's talk about this for a moment, Gabriel. I think this is going to be a really interesting topic that I know we didn't put notes on and anything else. But
yeah.
So Mike went into the crowd. He had the ball in his glove, and then the dad ripped that ball out of his glove. And then they ended up kicking him out for it. They kicked out him and his son. So let's take it right there. Let's stop there for a moment and let's look at a few things. Did Mike Trout have did he have the right to that ball when he went into the stands to get it?
I mean, yeah, he's a player. And I get the fan aspect, and I get
Right,
what
because
they're
that's the
trying to
next
do as
question.
well.
Right.
Right.
You know,
I was
did
supposed
the
to get
fan
that.
have the right? Did the fan have the right to that ball? And I think both of those questions can be answered with the same thing, right? Yes, both of those
Yeah,
people had
yeah.
the right to that ball. Should the fan have ripped it out of the glove? You know, now we're getting into those to those murky waters a little bit, right? So now let me ask you this: should the fan have been kicked out of the stadium like they were because of the interaction between him and Trout?
Mm, I would say I would say so. It's one thing if there's fan interference and it happens and they move on, but then for me it's the follow up antics where it's like okay that just can't happen. Where and then we've seen this before where you then worry about the player's safety and so for
Mhm.
me, it crossed that line where it's like, okay, we can't have this be a continuous thing. So I was okay with that. I don't know if we want to discuss the next part of it of what Mike Trout did. Um,
Yes,
but
yes, we certainly
I'll
will.
just say for me, I'll give the players more of the benefit of the doubt. Because they're the athletes and we want them to make plays.
Right. No, 100%. Um, so you know, to go on for anybody who has not seen the play, and you can go to our Twitter at the 643 and out pod. You can see it. I have it posted up on our X platform for you. Just scroll down through, and you'll be able to see it there. So the fan took the. I mean, he literally ripped the ball out of Trout's glove. And then I think afterward, he basically, you know, like he held his hands up. He was like, "Oh, snot!" Like I'm not sure if I could say he didn't realize what he was doing, but I'm not sure if he realized the
Yeah.
magnitude of what he was doing. Right. So then
Mhm.
he really started to apologize to Mike. You know, Mike was pretty upset at first, which I don't blame him for whatsoever. He got a ball ripped out of his glove. Mike Trout's job is to get an out right there, and that fan prevented him from doing so. So I can see where Trout got upset. But then after the fan was like, "Gee, I'm sorry," and all this other stuff, he apologized to Trout right there. You can see him mouth the words to him over and over again that I'm sorry, and then they kicked him out. I don't know how it all came about, how Mike Trout got a hold of them, but then later on, underneath the stadium, Mike Trout met with them. Daggone it, man. This is why you got to love people like this, right? Mike Trout went out of his way, brought the ball down to the kid. He signed the ball that the dad still had from the stands, gave him a bat, uh, did all that. Um, and I'm gonna, we're looking at different comments here. So he realized it was Trout, right? And you know what? Maybe Mike. I have never been able to get close to Mike Trout. They do spring training here. He is mobbed everywhere he goes. I almost feel sorry for him because everybody wants a piece of Mike Trout. So I've never really been able to get close to him. And you know what? I didn't really think about that. But maybe that is when the guy kind of freaked out, was when he realized, holy snot, that was Mike Trout who I just jerked that ball away from. It wasn't some no name guy or some scrub player or some middle of the road guy. This is Mike freaking Trout that I took this
Yeah,
baseball
yeah.
away from. And then Mike Trout went underneath, gave them gave them everything that he did. Fantastic gesture by Mike Trout. And again, I think that's why uh, he deserves to be the captain of this. And I will again. I don't know if you've seen it. Mark DeRosa talked about it. From my understanding, Mark DeRosa talked with Mike Trout and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about giving the captain spot to Aaron Judge. What do you think about that?" And I wrote it down here. Mike Trout's comment back was, "He deserves it." Um, Mike, I'm gonna
Mm.
disagree with you, buddy. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. I understand what you're trying to do here. But I don't think Trout deserves it. I think there's other people who should be able to get that moniker. I said I wanted to talk about Hunter Green for a moment. We talked about the pitching stuff earlier. I want to give you some pitching stats on Hunter Green here for just a moment, and then we'll talk about another red quickly, and then we'll exit stage left here. And looks like we're gonna keep this
Sure.
thing under 2 hours today, Gabriel. Shoot, man, we're doing good today, buddy. So Hunter Green's slider has been the best pitch in baseball. He has thrown it 112 times. Hitters are 0-29 against it with 13 strikeouts and a 54.1% whiff rate on that slider. It is the only time in Major League Baseball history where a person has thrown a pitch over 100 times and no hitter has been able to connect with it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Hunter Green's just on another level right at the moment. And then the other thing that I wanted to say, my favorite player ever, and I know he's a Cincinnati Red as well. God rest his soul. I hope he gets put into the Hall of Fame here shortly. Yesterday would have been Pete Rose's birthday had he still been alive. He's a little older, I think, than what most people give him credit for. He would have turned 84 yesterday. So, man, I love Pete. Maybe we'll get into that discussion later on in another show. But fantastic player. No matter what you think about him off the field, fantastic player on the field. And I'm just going to leave it at that. All right, Gabriel. So who would you like to see as the team captain besides Aaron Judge? Is there someone that you would pick, whether it be on your Boston team or is there someone who has given a lot of years to Major League Baseball that you think should be rewarded with that C on the jersey for Team USA when we do the World Baseball Classic?
Yeah, for me, it's just someone who leads by example, and this is maybe a little less common, but ideally someone who is vocal too, good at communicating. But either way, someone who definitely leads by example would be at the first and foremost, and then has the ability to kind of back it up. And that being said, little cross reference, Udonis Haslem was forever a team captain with the Miami Heat. Even toward the later years when he wasn't getting the minutes that he was getting early on, but he was still a fantastic team captain because he was able to walk the walk. So that being said, for me now, someone who I just really admire as a baseball player and who for me checks a lot of the boxes, if not all of the boxes, Gunnar Henderson. I think he would be a really great captain.
Gunnar Henderson. That's interesting. And the last thing that I want to do here as we're going to do some exit music here. Hopefully it's not too loud in the background. One of you guys that are still listening to me, if you can't hear what we're saying, then I'll reduce that music down because what we're saying is more important than the music in the background. But, it's just a work in progress for me here. So I'm trying to do it a different way today than what I've done in the last few weeks. Do you think we're going to win the World Baseball Classic, or is there another team that kind of has, we've not won it yet, right? We finished second, but we have yet to win this thing. With Aaron Judge at the helm, will that make a difference? And will this be the time that we'll break through and win this World Baseball Classic?
Oh, it'll make a difference in all the worst possible ways. This will not give us the breakthrough, and more importantly, by that point, Japan will have the two best players in all of baseball, in Shohei Ohtani when he steps up to bat, and then Shohei Ohtani when he steps on the mound. So it's a done deal.
All right, buddy. Hey, I appreciate you being on with us today. Thank you very much for yourself. Thank you very much for Fanatic Dak, who was on with us in the beginning and gave us a lot of stuff for the Denver sports fan. We talked about the Rockies. We talked about the not the Clippers, the Nuggets. We talked about the Broncos, and we even threw a little bit of Avalanche in there. Yeah, that's the name of their oh boy, I don't know about this one. So, all right, here we go. Music, signing off. We're gonna hit the play button. A little bit in the background. I think it's also going to turn your mic down a little bit. So let me get with you real fast. Anything that you want to add to the end of the broadcast here on the Sportz Truth?
Thank you, Michael. You know what? Go baseball.
Go baseball. I like it. And of course, as we always stated in the show, here it comes. Thank you all very much for being with us. And the only thing that is fair in life is the baseball. Between the third, base one. Good evening, everyone.